GT channel with Sam Itani, James McKeon, and Taro Koki.
Hello, everybody. Welcome from Quarantineville, USA. I'm in Orange County. Taro's in LA. James is in LA. And we are here once again, still in our homes or home offices. So I have with me, as always, Mr. James McKeon of No Breaking Podcast, where he's taking a little sabbatical, but so are we all. But we'll see a lot of content as soon as everything gets back to normal, right, James?
That's right, Sam. More than ever.
Okay, and then Taro Koki, GT channel, who pretty much produces everything here, and he's got this wonderful new virtual background. I love it. Can you tell me a little bit about that, Taro?
Yeah. Thanks for the comments. I was kind of going for a virtual background like yours, but somehow it didn't turn out. Actually, this is our new T-shirt design. So if you guys want a T-shirt with this design, go to gtchannel.com and click on the shop.
Cool. And Tara, I think we have a special guest today. Why don't you tell us a little bit about him?
Yes, we do. Welcome. We have Jordan Greer, founder of GTPlanet. How you doing, Jordan?
Doing great, Taro. Thanks for having me. I'm really honored to be on your guys' show. It's you guys have done a great job with this, and glad to be here.
I think we're honored to have you on our show.
We are honored. Yes, we're delighted to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So GTPlanet is one of the biggest prominent sites in the gaming and automotive culture, right?
Well, yeah, I would like to think so. But yeah, I've been running it a long time, since 2001, and it was a long time ago. It was a different world back then, and discovered Gran Turismo and wanted to create a community, a space online where other people who enjoyed the game and were passionate about these amazing realistic racing games could come and connect with one another and talk about the game and compete online, just about comparing hot laps and that sort of thing. And it just started to grow. And now here I am almost 20 years later. It's grown into this amazing business and this amazing community. It's visited by millions and millions of people. And, I've got riders and I get to go to these events all over the world and, meet guys like you and Sam at all these events. It's just been such an amazing journey. And I really do. I'm very fortunate to have it. And it's a great community. It's a great thing.
Great. And then what's new going on over at GTPlanet? I hope it's better than Planet Earth here.
Yeah, fortunately, it's a little better than Planet Earth. It has been a crazy few months. Of course, right now we've got the Gran Turismo 7 announcement, which just happened a few weeks ago. And anytime that you have a new Gran Turismo game announced, and we cover all the major racing games, but Gran Turismo obviously is the main one. But whenever you have a new game like this announced, it brings back a lot of people to the community. That's one reason I think it's been able to carry on so long, is because as they keep publishing new Gran Turismo games, everybody likes to come back and talk about them. So that's the big story. Traffic is way up, and it's great to see a lot of old faces returning to the community and people wanting to see what's up with the next chapter of Gran Turismo. And it's been a crazy year. Of course, a lot of people have been returning to sim racing thanks to COVID-19. And when the global lockdowns and stuff all happened, our traffic went up 60% just in a matter of 2 or 3 days. So it's been a wild ride. It's been a wild ride. It was good to see the community come together like that in a time such a bad time. I wish it was under different circumstances, but yeah, it's been a roller coaster for sure.
And you just mentioned Gran Turismo. They recently released this new trailer, right, for the new game. What do you think of what you've seen so far?
So far, so good. There is a, with Gran Turismo Sport on the PlayStation 4, they took the game into a different direction, more of a competitive online esports. It's sort of it focused mainly on the competition, which was fine. I mean, that's great, and that's a very forward-thinking move, I think, that they did. However, a lot of the old school players saw that, and they saw that the car list and the track list were not as large, and it didn't have as much of a traditional offline type of gameplay experience in GT Sport when it was first launched. And so a lot of people were not that interested in it. And so it opened the game up to a new audience, but it also it didn't turn them off, but it sort of alienated a lot of the traditional fan base. And so for Gran Turismo 7, I think they're bringing those two worlds together in a way that will really appeal to a lot of people. And they're bringing back a lot of traditional tracks. Trial Mountain, of course, was the track that was featured in the reveal trailer for Gran Turismo 7. And that got a lot of people very excited, understandably, because it signals a return to the Gran Turismo of old. And that's what a lot of people want. So we'll see. There's a lot more to come with the game, a lot more news to be revealed on that. And I think people are going to like what they see.
Now, do you have the inside scoop on what's going in? Does Kazunori and all the Gran Turismo engineers let you in?
I can't say. I can't comment on that.
You say no comment is plenty comment enough.
No comment.
Officially, no comment. Got it, man. Got it.
Yeah, officially no comment. But I do pick up little bits and pieces here and there, and like I said, what my understanding of the game as it is and as it's going to be is positive. As a fan, speaking as a fan, I think people will be very excited with what's to come.
Have they announced anything in terms of dates or season?
No, not yet. I think with the PlayStation 5 coming out, they've got a great opportunity here to push it out as a launch title. I mean, it was the first game that they showed in their live stream that was focused on the games. Their first title for PlayStation 5 was Gran Turismo 7. So I think that if you really want to get people hooked again on Gran Turismo, there's no better way than to get it out as soon as possible. Of course, Gran Turismo games have they're always it's a bit of a meme, that they're delayed and stuff, and we'll see. Anything could happen, but I think if they can get it out sooner rather than later, that would be a great thing. And the other thing to remember too is game development has changed so much since over the past 20 years that Gran Turismo has been happening. And so now I think that Kazunori Yamauchi and the Polyphony Digital team, they realize now that they can put out a product that's not perfect, it doesn't have everything that they want, and they can keep updating it now with regular updates every month, and the game can evolve. It doesn't have to be this static product anymore. Right, for a team like Polyphony Digital, that's hugely advantageous, because with the way Kazunori works and runs his team there at Polyphony, they want to make sure that everything is just right. And a lot of people complain about that because they think it takes too long, and they're perfectionists and all that. But at the end, you get a really, really great product that builds up this fan base and this passionate following. So this new style of game development really suits the team, I think.
Hey, Jordan, on that subject, I would think they would try to, get the game out, for the Christmas season, right? As gifts and stuff. But have we seen the last of those? We've seen the last of pretty much music CDs, but have we seen the last of games coming in that format? Is everyone just downloading them off the air now? Is it pretty much?
Yeah, a lot of people, when they revealed the PlayStation 5, they actually showed two different versions of the hardware. One version had a disk drive, the other version did not. So, that's really a line in the sand has been drawn that shows that this is probably the last generation of gaming consoles that will have physical media. A lot of people have a romantic attraction to the, physical media. It's very nostalgic for them. And I understand that people like to have the physical games. They like to sell their used games. But when it comes to sheer convenience and, the ease of distribution, it really doesn't make sense to have physical media anymore these days.
Yeah,
I think
games are the only
this will be the
thing that,
last hurrah.
yeah, games are the only medium that still uses, physical discs, because, movies, music, you don't deal with discs anymore.
No, you don't. It's just something else to keep track of. It's just a hassle. And I don't miss the physical media at all. And I'll probably buy the PlayStation 5 without the disc drive, So
I see.
that's kind of the future. We're living in the future now. So it's a new world.
When you buy the PlayStation 5, buy 2, because James has been, he's been hounding anyone and everyone for PlayStation consoles. So
Hey, Jordan, it's only because Sam promised me one and he hasn't delivered yet. So one day he will deliver.
We're in the middle of a lockdown, all right?
He needs a hookup.
Is done. Jordan. I will get you one. So.
Well, if you can tell me where I can get some glasses that are as cool as those, I may be able to work a deal with you.
You know what, James? No, you know what, Jordan?
We think we can. We think we've found the guy that can provide you with those sunglasses.
Those glasses are not even half as cool as these. Okay, I mean, look at these things.
Look at Sam eating the carrots there.
There he is.
He's a cheap
there he is.
knockoff, man. He's a cheap
Meeting
knockoff.
Lukashenko and eating a carrot. Next thing you know, Sam, you'll be holding watermelons.
I'm gonna bring a carrot for you next time so I can eat it too.
That's just what we're looking for. I know how much you like carrots as well.
Well, anyways, Jordan, thank you for the compliment. You're the only one who has taste. Any sense of taste on this panel? Hey, I wanted to ask you is, before you started GTPlanet, how much were you into cars? How much were you into video games? How much were you into driving video games?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, that's a good question. I was 14 years old when I started GTPlanet, so I was quite young.
Mozart. Okay.
Yeah, I was quite young, and so I was kind of late getting into video games. Really, and my first gaming console was a Nintendo 64. And my cousin actually got one, and he had Super Mario 64 and the Star Wars game at the time. I can't remember what that was called, but I loved it. And so that got me into gaming. I was a huge Nintendo fanboy. I mean, I was like 8 years old, 8, 9 years old at this time. And then I got a PlayStation and sort of expanded my horizons. And I liked, a lot of different types of games. I always loved cars. I was one of those little kids who, had a shirt, with a car on it, and like the wallpaper in my room as a kid had, cars on it.
Sam still has that wallpaper, Jordan. It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's great wallpaper, There's nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it. But yeah, I always loved cars. But being in Kentucky, and I'm not saying anything bad about Kentucky, it's a wonderful place to live and a wonderful place to grow up. But it doesn't, back in the the 80s and 90s and stuff, and early 2000s when I was growing up, it didn't really have a car culture. It didn't really have, you didn't see a lot of different types of cars. You had,
no
Mustangs,
big
Camaros.
JDM scene in Kentucky.
No JDM scene whatsoever. And, it was just, you had your NASCAR fans, and that was pretty much it. So when I thought of motorsport and racing, I thought of like NASCAR. I thought that was pretty much all there was to it, and I would occasionally see, the Indy 500 and kart racing, the old kart racing, like Formula kart racing at the time, and no exposure to Formula One or anything like that. So, but I always loved real cars, and I was always attracted to simulators and that sort of thing. So when the original Gran Turismo came out, that really caught my attention, because it was like, oh, here's a game that takes cars and racing seriously. And it's it's not a kiddie game. It's not, and I was probably 11, 12 years old. So obviously I was not a kid anymore. I wanted the real stuff. I was interested in something with real cars and that sort of thing. And so it really got my attention, and I loved it straight away. And, for me, it opened up an entire world of motorsport and of different cars. It exposed me to all these different cars that I never never knew existed. And it changed my life in so many ways, and it led me to create this website, which obviously did change my life in just about every way. So yeah, it had a huge influence. And I still remember when I learned that Laguna Seca in Gran Turismo 2 was a real track. It was my favorite track in the game, and then I found out that it was a real place, and I was like, what? Like,
have you driven the real
incredible
thing? Have you driven the real thing?
Yes, I have. Yes,
Oh,
I
good
have.
for you. Awesome.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
so
that was a
many,
dream come true.
yeah, there's so many people that have, learned or first saw, the Spoon S2000 or Mines R32 GTR, they're all like, HKS, all these like aftermarket Japanese brands. They all first saw them, on Gran Turismo, right?
Yeah, and that was me. I mean, and there's all these cars that I didn't even know existed. And like I said, I loved cars, but I was mainly only exposed to sort of the local market, and I remember for me in particular with JDM cars, it was amazing because so many of these cars I had no idea existed. And my all-time favorite car in Gran Turismo games is the Toyota Altezza RS200. And I remember distinctly when I was playing that, I discovered that in Gran Turismo 2, and it sort of like expanded my world a lot. In yellow there, yeah, click that one in yellow. that was my car right there.
Yeah.
And I loved that car. I'd never seen anything like that before. But what struck me about that and a lot of the JDM cars was that they had this utilitarian look to them. Like the Altezza was a 4-door sedan, yet it was sporty and it was fun to drive, and it was racy, and and it just had this look unlike anything else I'd seen on the road at the time. And for me, like that was just so cool that a car like that existed. And there's a long list of JDM cars that sort of have, they don't look like the Ferraris and the Lamborghinis of the world. They have a very utilitarian look, like they're just designed to do one thing. They're like a tool, and that was my first exposure to cars like that before I really knew that they existed in real life. And I should say all this as well, because a lot of the people watching this, especially the younger audience, they may think, like, what's wrong with this guy? Like, did he not get on YouTube? Like, how did he not know about this kind of stuff? But the thing about it is that back in like the early 2000s, like there was no YouTube, like there was no social media, there was no really anything, there wasn't, I didn't even have a way to watch like Formula One races, so it's like road racing itself was something that was quite foreign to me. And it was a very different world back then. It wasn't like you just have everything at the tip of your fingertips. It's like it was a different time. And I think that Gran Turismo, not just for me but for a lot of people, opened up a whole new world of automotive interests.
What are some of your other favorite cars from Gran Turismo growing up?
Oh, there's so many. I mean, well, sticking with Toyota, the Toyota GT1 was another one that stuck with me. That was another car. The fact that it had a road going version of that car, like I was like, wait, what? Like, there's something that actually looks like this. I'd never been exposed to that car at Le Mans. I had not seen that racing. Like that was something that I just couldn't believe existed, and it did, and it was real. And again, I couldn't believe that a company like Toyota made a car like that. I didn't even know that at the time, and I'm like, wait, that's a Toyota? It kind of blew my mind that something like that existed. So that was
back then
amazing.
Toyota didn't do any form of motorsports in North America. So
no,
how would you even know?
How would you even
weren't they in NASCAR? Or was that way after?
Well, that's way after.
Way after, Sam.
Right. I'm getting old.
It's those carrots.
And
I mean, they had TRD, like Pikes Peak and stuff like that with Rod Millen and stuff like that. But besides that, they didn't do any motorsports.
Yeah, no, they just didn't. And that's sort of the big big trend for me is that, you know, like these Japanese car companies, I've always knew them as making, you know, either luxury cars, you know, like Lexus, or, you know, just really good, solid utilitarian cars, you know, like Mitsubishi, Subaru, Toyota. To me, these were all cars that my friends' moms drove. You know, it's like, it's not something that was a performance oriented car. And, you know, for a lot of people now, I'm sure that sounds crazy, but, you know, it was, like I said, it was a different time back then. And for me, it opened my eyes. I thought that was just so cool that these brands were doing that sort of thing. You know, like the Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution, another car I just loved the Evos. You know, that was just, they were just so cool.
Yeah, another four-door.
Yeah, another four-door. Yeah, again, see, I was shocked that a four-door car could be racy. You know, it's like my 12-year-old brain, like, that was just like, how is that even possible?
Yeah.
So that was.
Jordan, did you end up buying an Lexus IS, the Altezza, when it made its way over here?
Yeah, I came very close to. I came very close to.
I thought it was your dream car. I would have thought I would have been the first car you buy.
Yeah.
It was a little pricey though. It was around $30,000 back then. So.
Yeah, it was a little pricey. It was a little.
And you were only what, 14, 16?
Yeah, I was like probably 14, 15.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did end up buying a Infiniti G35 coupe when they came out, and that was, you know, see, that was a Skyline.
Yeah.
In Japan, that was the Skyline. And so the, you know, Infiniti G35, I really, that was one of my main reasons for buying that car. You know, I thought it was a fantastic looking car, great pedigree, and felt kind of cool to know I was driving a Skyline. And and you know, it was a great car, and it's something I probably would not have bought were it not were it not for the Skyline heritage in Gran Turismo. And of course the GTR, that's another car that's so many people learned about through Gran Turismo.
Yeah.
And what about some of the other non-JDM cars that you've liked, John?
Yeah, well, keeping on that theme of cars that, you know, I didn't think were necessarily performance cars, you know, it's like the AMG cars from Mercedes, you know, like those. I'm like, wow, a racy Mercedes, you know, it's whoa, it's that was another eye opener. It was one of the biggest shockers for me was the Alfa Romeo 155 touring car. That is something, like, I'd kind of heard of Alfa Romeo, but, you know, touring cars and racing, I didn't know anything about that. And that was just such a cool looking car. And remember one of the challenges on Gran Turismo 2, I think, was the 155 touring car at Rome night, and on that circuit, and that was just the most amazing combo. I just loved that car. I thought it looked so good. And once again, could not believe that something like that actually existed. And one of my favorites. The Mercedes CLK-GTR was another one of my all-time favorites. I was shocked because it looked so racy, and yet it had like the E-Class headlights, you know, and it had the little Mercedes grill and the silver star. And I'm like, wait, what? Like this is, how does something like this exist? It was just the coolest thing I'd ever seen.
Jordan, you're not really complimenting Kentucky too much. Not being exposed to a lot of these cars.
No, I mean that culture just isn't here. You know, it's just not here. So it was such an eye opener for me. I mean, that car. I mean, I'm loving looking at these pictures that you're bringing up, and it's just so cool. You know, I'd never seen anything like that. And the TVR Speed 12 was another one that it was just like, it was like a car designed for a video game in a video game. And then you find out, wait, this is actually real.
A real car, right? Yeah, you don't see those driving
this
around.
Is a real car. Yeah. Just crazy to drive that. And
James, don't you have one in your garage?
No, I've got the this is the one I have in my garage, the Cerberus.
Oh yeah.
There you go. So
Yeah,
like
that was
growing up,
GTR was amazing.
starting so young, becoming a fan and, starting this site, what was it like when you first met Kazunori? Were you like totally starstruck?
I've never been so starstruck in my entire life. Like that, it was 2010. I'll never forget it. It was 2010. And, I had been running the site. I'd never been to any type of event. I'd never been to any media event or anything like that. It was something I'd just been running from my bedroom, basically, pretty much. And I remember a user on my website was involved with the events company that was hosting the launch party for Gran Turismo 5. And he told them, he said, hey, this Jordan Greer guy that runs GTPlanet, he needs to go to the party. And they were like, oh yeah, of course he does. Like, do you know how to get in touch with him? And he's like, yeah. So he hooked me up with the company that was arranging all this and Sony PR team and all that. And they invited me to the launch party in Madrid, Spain. And I was like, whoa, I'm like, whoa, like Kazunori is going to be there. Like, what am I going to do? And like I was so nervous and couldn't believe, after covering Gran Turismo 5 so closely for, it was over 2 years, that game, the traffic to my site had just exploded. It had gone from 10,000 visits a day to over 100,000 visits a day. And it was all about, Gran Turismo 5. And so to actually go and see the physical manifestation of that in person for the first time, it was incredible. And then I saw Kazunori walking around with Translator's son, affectionately, Taka is affectionately known as Translator's son. And I was like, wow, like I'd studied so many of his interviews and studied so many of his videos,
the translator guy is even more famous too right now.
He is. Yeah, I was just as excited to meet him. And I was so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, he's walking around, there. And then I was like, oh, I don't know if I should say anything. Like, what should I do? And then this guy that was there with me, I kind of befriended this other journalist guy, and he was like, you should talk to him. And so I went up, and he was actually filming the whole thing. Is actually on camera. And I said, I went up to him, and Kazunori didn't know who I was. And, I said, hi, my name's Jordan Greer, and I didn't even know if he would know about GTPlanet or anything. I didn't know what his reaction would be. And so I said, hi, my name's Jordan Greer. I run GTPlanet, and his face lit up, and he's like, oh, he's like, oh, hello, love your site, thank you so much for supporting the game. And he was so shocked and so surprised that I was there. And and it was a very, very special moment, and I'll never forget that. And I remember that I thought, well, he may not remember me or anything the next time I see him, but the next time I saw him, he saw me from across the room and came over and shook my hand and said hello. And that was for me, that was very special, that someone that I've looked up to and has had such a huge influence on my life actually knows who I am. and now he's somebody I consider him a friend. I always get to chat with him at these Gran Turismo World Tour events, and we've developed a good rapport over the last 10 years. So very, very special. Very special.
That's a great story. Tell us a little bit. Oh, go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, Jordan, even more memorable than the GT6 event in Silverstone. Come on.
Well, I did have a great media handler there for the GT6 event. Yeah,
is that Mr. Steven Seagal?
Yeah, exactly.
So you were fed carrots? Is that what you were fed, Jordan? Is that what you're trying to tell us here?
I fed Jordan some good stuff, right, Jordan?
Yeah, we had some great meals there. And
no, not just meals, but what about the drive, the car?
Yes, you did.
I hooked you up in the best car.
There.
Yeah, so anyway, sorry, I just wanted to make sure Jordan didn't.
You just wanted to show off, Sam. It's okay. We understand, Sam. It's totally
Sam's doing a great job. Sam's doing a great job.
So much heat for these glasses. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, that was a great event. It's amazing.
It was a good event, though, wasn't it?
It was. Yeah, that was the 15th anniversary reveal, event celebration for Gran Turismo, and they revealed Gran Turismo 6, and that was that was crazy. That was so exciting. I remember the site, GTPlanet, crashed so hard on that day because we just had a ton of people. I think we probably would have had well over 250,000 unique visitors that day had the site not gone down. But the again, it goes to show how much things have changed. That event was not live streamed or anything, and I was the only one there covering the event live, and so I was live vlogging that, and posting pictures and the news about Gran Turismo 6, and it was the only place on the internet you could get that news. And so it was pandemonium. It was so crazy. And
was that the one in England, in the UK?
Yeah, that was at Silverstone.
Yeah.
That was at Silverstone. Just an amazing day. And it's funny how far I've come from doing that at the GT6 event at Silverstone, from the GT5 event in Madrid, where they, of course, we had an interview session with Kazunori. It was a roundtable interview, so people are sitting there and you can ask them questions. And and I had a big list of questions. I was so nervous, and the other people were asking questions, and then they said, "Okay, thank you so much. Interview session is over." And I was like, oh no, I completely missed my opportunity. I never got to ask him a question in my very first interview. And now, I get to have exclusive interviews with him, one-on-one interviews. And I'm always sure to speak up. Sometimes I'll be the only one to ask questions in roundtable interviews now. But it's funny to look back and see how far I've come and see how far Gran Turismo has come, and of course GTPlanet itself.
Great. James, you have any questions about some of the eSports stuff or the World Tour stuff that Jordan is involved in? I want to hear about the World Tour stuff.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more about that, Jordan, how you think of where the future lies in eSports and on online gaming in regards to how it relates to racing. I mean, getting your take on that would be really interesting to hear your thoughts, to be honest.
Yeah, well, the world has changed so much, just in the last 4 or 5 months here. It's really taken on a new meaning, for esports and virtual racing and that sort of thing. But it's been a long time coming. I remember back in the early days of GTPlanet, people would just compare lap times with one another, and they would run a whole racing league just taking pictures of their TVs and putting up their lap times on there. And we've got the weekly race series on GTPlanet that's been going for 18 years now. It's crazy, and people still do that. But it's come so far in the last few years, and with Gran Turismo Sport, I think Kazunori Yamauchi saw the direction that this was headed, and he said maybe it was a little bit before its time, maybe in some ways, but he said let's make sure that we can provide a competitive platform and embrace the way people are using this game and competing online against one another. And now it's just unbelievable how far it's come. And just sticking to Gran Turismo alone, the World Tour events have changed everything. Nobody else has done what they've done. They looked at the other events and they said, okay, we've got random gamers coming in here and they do well, and we've had some nice big one-off events, and that's great. But what makes motorsport really great is the stories behind the drivers. You want to watch something like Formula One because who these guys are. Their story. You know who a Lando Norris is. A Fernando Alonso, a Lewis Hamilton, and you tune in to watch the next race. Not necessarily because you want to watch the racing. I mean, obviously you do, but you want to see the next chapter of their stories unfold. You want to see what happens to them next. And I think that the Gran Turismo World Tour, more than any other esports event, was able to tap into that and develop the players themselves as characters, as guys that you get to know and guys that you want to cheer for and guys that you care about. And so when the next World Tour event would come along, you want to tune in and see how's poor Coque Lopez going to do. He's always struggled, to get that top win and get that big win. And, Mikel Hazal, he's like always so close, but he never could quite make it, yet he's one of the best in the world. And then, you got Igor Fraga, who is, just a superstar, and you tune in to see him you think he's going to run away with it, and then he spins out, and it's like that spin means so much more when you're invested in him as a person.
Mhm.
And when you have these Gran Turismo World Tour events that are live events, they bring people together. So all these guys get to know one another. The media gets to meet them. I get to meet them. And we go have dinner together. I get to know these guys. I consider these guys to be good friends of mine now. And so when I write about them on GTPlanet, like I can say a lot more than I would have if I was just talking about some random sim racer and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mhm.
that I think that's what Gran Turismo got so right. And it was really, really, really taking off this year. They had so much momentum from the last event in Sydney back in February. And then of course, coronavirus had different ideas. And so those World Tour events are on pause right now. But then you've seen the other real world racing series sort of embrace that. But these are still virtual events. And I think virtual events are great. You can do them all online, but there's nothing like having the guys right there together, seeing them interact with one another. You can see their emotions on their face, their tears, they're happy for one another. They maybe a little upset at one another after things happen in the races. And it's sort of it's based on motorsport virtually, but it's a whole new thing. It's a whole new thing. It's really changed a lot just in the last year or two.
Yeah, and then I guess my other big question, I suppose I have to ask is, which is your favorite version of Gran Turismo then?
Ooh, that is a really good question. For nostalgic purposes, that will always be Gran Turismo 2.
Okay.
That will always be Gran Turismo 2. That game, I played it more than any of the other Gran Turismo games, and it influenced me to start GTPlanet, which changed my life forever. And should have brought it over here. I've got my copy of the game signed.
The 2-disc version.
Kazunori.
Obviously.
What's that?
The game is obviously the 2-disc version, where I remember when I had it on the PlayStation, it was one of the first games to come out with 2 discs, multiple disc games, and then it was like the rage after that.
Yeah, yeah. Those 2-disc games were just the coolest, weren't they?
Yeah.
Like you really
when you got the
like
double-sided, the extra space.
Oh yeah. I
game.
remember like Metal
Case.
Gear Solid came with one of those cases, and Final Fantasy 7. Like you're getting a big game when you have that case.
Mhm.
And that was very special. So that's my all-time favorite. I think. I mean, GT Sport, I think it has to be in terms of gameplay, that's probably my favorite to play, just because it feels really, really good on the wheel. They've got it really dialed in well.
The current one, right? It's the current one.
Yeah, current one now. The physics look really great. The graphics look really great. That's my favorite one to play.
Okay, I mean, that's good to know, Jordan, because Tara was very kind enough to get me a copy of that, but I'm still waiting on Sam to get me a player to actually get to go on that, use that game. So I just need to remind Sam of that. But no, I think that's a very good take, I guess, Jordan, on that. I think I'd probably would agree with you as well, but yet I've still yet to play the Gran Turismo Sport, Sam. So I don't know that quite yet.
Well, we got your console on reserve, so don't worry. But, going back to you, Jordan, I totally agree with you with how they, let the drivers kind of express themselves. Because I mean, before I went to my first World Tour, if I even, I just go, well, why would I want to go watch a bunch of guys playing video games? I mean, it's the last thing I want. I went to a couple of them, and now, dude, I have my drivers that I pull for. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, is there any? I know you're media, right? But and you're probably not allowed to do this, but are there, you don't even have to name the names. Are there drivers that you pull for?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
You want to name names?
Let's see. I don't think I'll do that because
okay, that's all right. Because they won't give you an interview if you don't put them on that list.
Exactly. I mean, and all the guys are great in their own different ways, but there's certain personalities that you connect with more than others, and that's not to say that the guys that I'm not pulling for are bad guys, or I just don't know them as well. And a lot of that has to do with language barriers. Obviously I connect more with the guys that speak better English because they're more comfortable speaking with me, so I'm able to develop more of a rapport with them. And so it's just, there's some guys that you just get along with really well. and you see their passion for it. I think all the guys, and they to get there, it's really, really, really difficult just to get to one of the world tour.
Oh my God, I
think,
know, it's crazy how good they are. It's like crazy.
It's crazy.
But just before we go any further, Jordan, I just want to let everyone know that Jordan is a pretty damn shtick at the wheel himself. He's been in the pro-ams, right? Where they
yeah. I've done the pro-am.
He won one of them, which I was there. I was very impressed.
Yeah, I won that one in Tokyo.
The one in Tokyo, that's right. So, anyways, he's a hot shoe. So, just
is that like a media, media,
and just amateur guys teaming up with the pros. And was there a pro driver in your field? Because Juan Montoya was in one of the races.
Yeah,
Lewis
I
Hamilton.
raced against Montoya. He was in New York. He was at the New York.
Oh, he was in New York. Did you race against Lewis? I think you did.
Yes, I raced against
the last
Lewis
one
Hamilton.
in Monaco, right?
Yep. I raced against him.
I mean, where else can
How did you do? How did you do when you raced
he did
against
terrible
Lewis
in Monaco.
Hamilton?
I was very disappointed.
Well, what happened is, I mean, I was like right there, like I could see Lewis. I was like 2 cars. I was in 3rd or 4th place, I think. And it was at Catalonia, Circuit de Catalunya, and Barcelona. And I can't remember the turn number. It's kind of like the first third of the way through the lap, and it's kind of got that little flat area there before it goes to that quick right-hand kink up the hill. And it was the first lap. I went too far, went too wide onto the curbs, and the car just spun out. And I couldn't believe what happened. And then I went from like 3rd to like last.
I know.
So,
was that because of some of those meals that Sam was feeding you? Is that the cause of that? Is that really what it was? I mean, that's what I have a feeling it must have been.
Too full.
Yeah.
It was in Monaco, so kind of a gambling city of capital of Europe. I had money changing hands and everything, and then boom,
Sam had money on you.
Pushing the money out, man.
Sam's always got money changing hands wherever he goes. It's those sunglasses that do it.
So I was disappointed in you, Jordan.
Yeah, I was disappointed in myself.
I know you're going to do better for me next time. So it was going.
Yeah, those things are tough because the driving standards are not too good.
No, there's some people that are all over the place. Yeah, so.
They're all over the place. You never know what's going to happen. And the stewards, it's supposed to be the FIA race stewards there, and it's the same guys watching our race that watch the competitors' races.
Jordan, they're not watching the race.
No, they're just back there laughing at all of us, It's like,
or they're having their lunch break or whatever.
Yeah, they're not taking it very seriously. So, I mean, I remember at Monaco in 2018 at the very first World Finals, I was there. I had the pole position by 2 seconds or something. Like I was feeling really good going into the first corner. It was on the Tokyo Expressway track there in GT Sport, and I was doing really good. First lap, going to the first corner, I was the only one who hit the brakes. Everybody else
just pile up
right into me. I was in the wall. I was like 8 cars deep. It was and I was like right next to the wall. It was terrible. It was terrible. So I went from first to last in the first corner through no fault of my own.
So who are these guys you're racing against, though? Who are you racing against when you do these races at the events?
Other media people, so guys, a lot of guys that may not necessarily, some of them are usually pretty good, but some of the guys don't really play the game. They're there from like different car websites or, YouTube channels, things like that. So
podcasts. Sorry.
Yeah, podcasts. Guys like Sam,
Me? No, I don't. I refuse to race in those things.
No GT channel guy has ever hit you from behind, right?
No GT channel guys. You do occasionally get some guys that are there working for different media outlets that are maybe on eSports teams and that sort of thing, and those guys are really good. It's hard for me to keep up with them. I'm good. I'm good at the game. I learned quickly back in the GT Academy days that I'm really good. Like if I really work, I can maybe be around the top 100, 200 in the world, but to actually get to that next level, to break through to that next level of competitiveness, it's just it's beyond my own abilities.
It is crazy, huh? Like watching Fraga, Hazal, Zono. Oh my God, I'm just going, how do these guys do it? They're so consistent and they are on the edge. I've had newfound respect for these guys after I actually saw them. You know, they're in real life. I'm just going.
Yeah.
It's like my first time when one of my first time I met Kazunori. You know, at the SEMA show, they always have the GT awards, right?
Yeah.
And back in the day, you know, it was, I don't know, this was more than 10 years ago. They had one of the pods there, and no one was there. So I got in and I was just like, you know, playing around. And then he came up behind me, you know, and then I kind of felt this, you know, presence behind me. I was like, oh my God, you know, he's right behind me watching me.
And you went straight up.
No, I was like, you know, and he stood there for about 10 seconds and then turned around. He's like, oh, this guy sucks. Just turned around.
Yeah, there's no adrenaline quite like playing Gran Turismo in front of Kazunori Yamauchi.
Yeah,
like that's the most.
I've never been so nervous playing a video game.
Yes, he will make you nervous. Nothing like playing his game in front of him.
Exactly.
To make you nervous.
No pressure whatsoever.
Yeah,
no pressure.
I saw him right here, you know, on the corner of my eye, and then, you know, I was like, oh my God. And then, you know, I just
he was gone.
Saw him leave. Yeah, he just turned around and left.
He saw everything he needed to see.
Yeah, exactly. He saw. All right.
Being the monitor of time here, we got to wrap it up pretty soon. So, first of all, Jordan, anything you want to plug? We're trying to plug your GTPlanet.com as much as we can, but is there anything else you want to share with us?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, GTPlanet.net, of course, is our main website. Yeah. Hey, it's okay. I've got the .com as well.
Oh, you do? Okay, thank goodness.
Yep. Funny story there. I got the .com originally was not available, and so the .com was taken by a website called giftsandtoysplanet.com. So they eventually let the domain expire, so I was able to buy it up. But that's our main website there. Of course, we're on Facebook and Twitter. Twitter GT Planet News and Facebook there at GT Planet. And you know, we post everything there, and it's going to be a really exciting year. So I would encourage everybody to tune in and take a look at some of the coverage that we're going to have with Gran Turismo 7, because this is our bread and butter. It's a great year for racing games. You know, we're probably going to have a new Forza game coming out. We've got Project Cars 3 here coming next month, and Gran Turismo 7. You know, whenever that may be. Hopefully
later this year, Jordan. Later this year, for sure.
Yep, later this year. They have to. Yeah, they have to. Yeah, I personally think that it'll be a launch title. I don't know for certain,
I think so too.
I think it will be a launch title, and yeah, GT Planet is the place to go. We've got community competitions. There's people start up their own racing leagues. There's so much that you can do to get involved with our community, and that's the great thing about this community. It's that it's something that it's a shared topic that people like to come together around, Gran Turismo and racing game and cars, and then they find out that, hey, they have a lot in common with these other people. So we've got these amazing relationships that form on this website. People meet up. We have like a group that goes to the 24-hour Le Mans together, and just members from the site that get together. And it's just a worldwide community of people that have formed these friendships through cars and racing games and Gran Turismo. It's amazing. In the Sydney event in February, I was there standing on the stage, you know, watching people mill around, and I was looking up in the crowd, and there was a guy wearing a GT Planet logo T-shirt that I sent.
Oh, that's awesome!
And I was like,
wow.
Yeah, down in Australia on the other side of the world, and I was just like, wow, it's so amazing that I can come this far on the other side of the world and find people that I have a connection with, and we know each other through this website that I've built, through this community. And for me, that's the most satisfying thing about running the site. It's the people, it's the relationships. And through the Gran Turismo World Tour, I've been able to connect with so many of those people. It's been fantastic. It's been a real blessing. I'm very, very, very fortunate to have this community and be a part of it myself.
Well,
that's awesome.
thank you for your time today, Jordan. We're going to be doing other stuff here, so please feel free to stick around. But
yeah, love it.
we are, we're big fans of Gran Turismo. We're big fans of GTPlanet.
Thank you.
We look forward to great things from you in the future, man.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Sam. I appreciate you guys having me on. It's a pleasure.
You got it.
Thanks Taro, what's being on our show?
All right, Taro, what's next on our list of things?
What's next? Well, usually after our premiere interviews, we go to our reporting from our podcast team. Who wants to go first, Sam or James today?
Let's go to Sam first, because I want to hear all about Sam's soirees into the world of his otaku army that he has.
Okay.